message you must hear. Be environmentally aware. You hear? I tell you the ozone layer is a natural life preserver. Provide protection from the harmful rays of the sun.
So now we as Caribbean neighbor, come on, let we work together, implement a plan to stop ozone depletion.
Yeah, man, that's what we sing, say.
Neighbor, 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 protect the ozone layer. Neighbor, 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 protect the ozone layer. SOS, save our sky. Ozone friendly is what you buy.
Considering that CFCs can take as much as 40 years to drift up to the ozone layer, and that under the Montreal Protocol and substances that deplete the ozone layer agreement, phase-out dates for CFCs were as recent as 1995 and 2010 in developed and developing countries respectively. It means that if the proper practices are not adhered to, the venting of CFCs and 8 CFCs into the atmosphere, rather than recovery, reuse, and destruction, even if all of the countries that are signed on to the Montreal Protocol were to put a stop to the use and consumption of CFCs when this agreement was signed, it would mean that there are still ozone-depleting substances making their way up to the ozone layer. Our theme for 2012 Ozone Day, Protecting the Atmosphere for Generations to Come, as we are aware of the fact that no one country in isolation can bring about the repair of the ozone hole. In the 50 years, scientists predict it will take to repair the ozone layer. Hence the reason why the Montreal Protocol is one of the most successful environmental agreements to date, having attained universal ratification as of 2009. The work does not end there. All 197 parties to the protocol must continue to meet their obligations, and this efforts cannot be limited to the national ozone units. It requires the involvement of the policymakers, technicians, customs officers, refrigeration and air condition servicing companies, academia, the media, consumers, and the list goes on. Much has to be accomplished, and much has been accomplished, and there is much more to be done. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines is among those countries who are applauded for the work that is being done. I will only highlight a few of these examples. In 2007, St. Vincent and the Grenadines received recognition from the Multilateral Fund for the accelerated phase-out of CFCs, accomplished through the collaborative efforts of the Customs and Excise Departments, the importers of refrigerants, and the NOU Ministry of Health, Wellness, and the Environment. In 2008, the National Ozone Unit with the hard work of the National Ozone Committee and a group of committed technicians, launched the Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Technicians Association through funding from the United Nations Environment Program. In 2008, to the present date, St. Vincent has been recognized by the Ozone Secretariat and awarded by the Regional Network of Caribbean Ozone Officers for being the first country each year to fulfill its data reported requirements under the protocol. In 2009, we were the first party globally to have submitted this data. In 2011, we submitted an accelerated phase-out management plan for 8 CFCs or hydrofluorocarbons to the Executive Committee of the Multilateral Fund. We got approval for the amount of US $526,040 for project implementation, an amount surpassing the allowable funding base on our low volume consumption. St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this point became the first and still is the only country in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean to have been granted an accelerated phase-out. Under this new phase of the Montreal project, there are 5 main components, but I will highlight only the 2 most important in terms of their far-reaching potential. First is training. In previous project phases, we have conducted training in good practices, recovery, and retrofitting of domestic refrigeration and mobile air conditioning systems. And under this new phase, we intend to continue our training program, focusing mainly on the retrofitting of air conditioning systems and the introduction of alternative technologies and refrigerants that are both climate and ozone friendly. In addition to training, as it's customary, we will provide equipment for the use by our trained technicians, the association members, and the refrigeration and air conditioning department of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Technical Division to ensure that the objectives and the knowledge attained during training are transferred from the classroom. Finally, I wish to mention an initiative that we are extremely proud of. The National Ozone Unit has over the years collaborated with the Technical Division of the Community College in regards to the provision of training and the use of the college facilities. However, during those years, the limitations became apparent, and so we, meaning the head of department, Mr. Peters, and the National Ozone Unit, began discussing ways in which we can improve that section of the college. These ideas were shared with the then principal, Mr. Joseph Mack, and our former permanent secretary, Ms. Shirley Francis, who right away gave their approval for the project. We had dialogue with the United Nations Environment Program, the Regional Office of Latin America, and the Caribbean, and were able to secure funding. In March of this year, a trilateral agreement was signed between the National Ozone Unit, the Division of Technical and Vocational Education of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College, and the United Nations Environment Program. Needless to say, the vision was passed on to the present Dean of College, Mr. Osborne Bowens. Since Mr. Bowens is to follow my speech, I will not preempt his presentation, but I would say that I am looking forward to the opening ceremony of the new laboratory at the Technical College. We look forward to continued support and collaboration from all key stakeholders as we continue to implement the Montreal Protocol. Thank you.
I'm here today because I would have listened on 705 a couple of days ago, and I heard about the ozone exhibition that you were having here. So I came so that I would be more sensitized as to what it's all about, because we hear it all the time, but we're not really certain of everything about it. So I just came so that I can get pamphlets, get information concerning the ozone layer, the greenhouse gases, and everything that was said via media 705. I think that it's important that we know about it so that we will be able to know how to protect ourselves. Well, I have no children as yet, but in the future, for my children's sake and also for the country on a whole.
I will invite Mr. Osborne Bowens, Dean of the Technical Division of the Community College, to make his remarks.
I want to first of all applaud the Ozone Unit and the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment on the initiative of celebrating World Ozone Day through a fair that I believe is intended to synthesize and to bring more information to Vincentians on the importance of protecting the ozone layer. I want to also applaud and indicate to the Vincentian public that the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College stands tall and proud with the Ozone Unit in their work to protect the ozone layer. Now, I want to say that it is not a very sensational area of work. It is not one that draws a lot of attention, but it is one that is critical to our very existence. Now, importantly, this kind of work and the exemplary nature of the work that the ozone layer or the ozone unit is doing is very difficult to be done in these times, because when people consider economics at above their social responsibility, I believe that it is even more difficult for the ozone unit to be speaking to people about the importance of protecting the ozone layer. But if the evidence is to bear us out, I want what is happening. What we have these days are scorching hot days and extremely hot nights. We have situations where the coastal areas are under threat, and that is causing dislocation for people who are vulnerable and living on the coastal areas. We have the destruction of the forests, and we see what that brought us sometime last year with the freak floods that took place sometime last year. We have also the situation of the destruction of reefs across in Vincent and Grenadines, and the way in which that is impacting on the coastal areas again. So I'm saying that to say that the evidence is quite clear that there is need for action, and there's need for urgent action now. And that urgent action must take collective responsibility and also individual responsibility. And as we speak of collective responsibility, that is where the ozone unit has formed an important alliance or partnership with the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College, and in particular, the Division of Technical and Vocational Education. Now, over the years, we have been a strong partner and ally with the National Ozone Unit. We have undertaken a number of training initiatives that were able to bring our program up to particular standard. The ozone unit, through UNEP, they have been supplying us with thousands of dollars worth of equipment that would have allowed us to strengthen capacity and make our program more attractive for students who are coming in full-time. But over the last year, an important initiative would have been our collaboration through Mr. Gary Peters, the lecturer at the Division of Technical and Vocational Education, who acted as a consultant on what is called the HPMP, or the Hydrofluorocarbon Phase-Out Management Plan. Now, what that did is that it collected quite a bit of data on the situation that relates to harmful substances within St. Vincent and Grenadines, and the way in which we need to deal with those harmful substances. Now, all in all, what is happening there through the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College and the ozone unit, this collaboration or alliance is a win-win situation for both institutions, as the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College is gaining significantly through the training of our students, and eventually through the training of technicians in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And as Ms. Miller indicated to you, sometime in March this year, an agreement was signed between the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College, the ozone unit, and UNEP for the expansion of our refrigeration lab. And we would have at the end of this a lab that can compete with any within the OECS. Now, what this lab would do, it would help us to take more students into the program, into the full-time program at the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College Division of Technical and Vocational Education. But at the same time, it would allow us to train more local technicians in standards that are UNEP and HPMP ready. So we would be able to deliver programs and curricula and courses to our local technicians, ensuring that they meet local standards and regional international standards as it relates to the recovery, handling, and storage of harmful substances. Now, this is an important initiative, as with this initiative, we could say that in the next 5 or 10 years, the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College would have partnered with the ozone unit and made our contribution to the protection of the ozone units and, by extension, the environment of St. Vincent and Grenadines. That in the next year or so, we are hoping that our programs at the college will expand, particularly the refrigeration air conditioning program, and we'll be able to train not just 20 or 25 or 30 persons, but we'll be able to train up to 60 and even 80 persons per year, full-time at the division, and that will help us to put more technicians out there. And what that will do is ensure that these persons have the readiness, the ability, and the capability to help us with the recovery of these harmful substances, and down the road, St. Vincent and Grenadines would be a better place for this collaboration between the Ozone Unit and the St. Vincent and Grenadines Technical College. I want to say that it has been an excellent working relationship, one that has been a win-win situation for both institutions and for both partners, and we applaud the effort that is there, and we hope and pray that this would continue to develop and both partners would continue to benefit from this relationship. I want to officially say that we wish this fair and this celebration of World Ozone Day the best, and hope that people would come out and benefit from all of the information that is to be disseminated, and St. Vincent and Grenadines would be a better place for this particular initiative. Thank you and all the best.
I think my first encounter with the ozone layer stems back, I think, around 2004 when I was invited by the Ozone Unit to attend a workshop, and that had to do with the training of customs officers. And before that, basically, I really didn't know anything much about the ozone layer because it wasn't anything that was popularized, it wasn't in the media or anything like that. These steps were taken basically from a professional perspective. I think back in 2004, 41 customs officers were trained, and then in 2009 I fought a 61 customs officer. In 2004, basically, I nominated myself basically to be part of the National Ozone Committee, and there and then I became the point person for the Customs Department for the committee, and we began collaborating, working together. I remember that when the regulation was implemented, I was a driving force with that, and I also participated in training other officers, and we really have contributed well in terms of carrying out the mandates of the Ozone Unit.
September the 16th was declared as the International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer by the United Nations General Assembly. This day is indeed symbolic and worthy of recognition, since St. Vincent and the Grenadines is among the 197 United Nations member states that are signed on to the Montreal Protocol, making it the only agreement that has achieved universal ratification and the most successful multilateral environmental agreement. As you have heard, this year, parties to the Montreal Protocol are celebrating a momentous milestone of 25 years of successful implementation of the Montreal Protocol under the theme, Protecting the Atmosphere for Generations to Come. I particularly appreciate the fact that although the Montreal Protocol is specifically focused on the protection of the ozone layer, the theme chosen for its 25th anniversary is extended beyond ozone layer protection to encompass the entire atmosphere, recognizing the fact that if our planet is indeed to be preserved for future generations, we cannot limit ourselves solely on one atmospheric problem. Likewise, ladies and gentlemen, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment remain committed to the overall protection of our natural and man-made environment. Not to repeat what Mrs. Miller-Finley has mentioned in her remarks, but to commend the National Ozone Unit staff on their efforts to maintain our compliance under the Montreal Protocol and for the new initiatives and programs it has been undertaking. In particular, I wish to urge companies and individuals to take full advantage of the opportunities afforded them to advance their knowledge in the field of refrigeration and air conditioning, and to make use of the equipment provided. Let me take this opportunity to commend those companies who have actively been giving their support to the National Ozone Unit. I was informed that Trackman's Electronics, for example, has been sending all of their technicians to training workshops, demonstrating the company's commitment to the environment. That is indeed laudable. In addition,